The year is 2023. For the last 15 or so years, if you were to ask any fan of cinema, if you were to ask your local cinema snob what the worst thing that has happened was, they won't tell you tales of humanity's woes, they won't speak of wars or poverty or some other thing that sucks, nay. They'll say but one thing. Cape shit. There's too much cape shit! Superhero movies are a lot like the first time you combo smoking cigarettes and drinking milk. It's pretty awesome at first, but after a while you stop feeling like a human being. You feel capital F fucked. Are there just too many of them? Are they all bad? Are they generic? Are they bad? Are they uncreative? Or are they just bad? Answering these questions has been tearing society apart for 10,000 years, ever since Boog v Spook Duke of Joog released in 2016 BCE. But I think even the coolest professional movie watchers have a handful that they like and stand by as actual art. I don't like these Spider-Man, I like this Spider-Man. The Spider-Man is tasteless and lukewarm. But at a certain point, you have to take a step back and say, what in the f*** is The Thunderbolts, and why would I ever pay $9 to see that in theaters? Oh, Kraven the Hunter movie. Yeah, no thanks, I think I'd rather have a fucking Kraven the Frozen Pizza, you jackasses. He literally gets bit by a radioactive lion. What kind of an asshole would write that? What? Some sort of buffoon? The Marvels is on track to be the first movie to ever make $12 at the box office. I guess you wonder where I've been. I think the MCU is basically dead, and look, I love James Gunn, but I really don't think this whole DCU thing is gonna work out either. You're gonna be back to directing real movies soon, I can feel it. But I think to figure out how we got here, and perhaps how we can get out, we need to look back to a simpler time when I wasn't alive and every child ate jelly out of a big barrel in the backyard. The 1990s. Unlike today, where studios would shit out anything as long as DC or Marvel had a hand in it, back in the 90s, superhero movies had some prestige. You had Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns. Captain America, starring J.D. Salinger's son. The Trial of the Incredible Hulk. Rape Man. Okay, so basically the only good ones were the Batman movies, and one of those came out in the 80s, so. Tim Burton's Michael Keaton Batman film was a huge success. It was a little silly, but it was also edgy and cool. It was gothic and sexy. Previous Batman films had only ever managed one of those. But when Batman Returns came around, lame brains and concerned parents took issue with Catwoman and Penguin being far too erotic and disgusting.
It was very violent. It was a total attack against kids, the whole movie. Everything that kids love was being used against them.
Like what?
Clowns. Even the Penguin had a ducky boat.
So Warner Brothers took Tim Burton and Michael Keaton out back and shot them 8 times in the head live on television. And for the next 2 movies, they got Joel Schumacher to direct and make Batman fun again. Because I guess this wasn't fun or something. I could talk about Batman Forever, but I didn't watch it, whoops. But following Batman Forever came what I believe to be perhaps, and I really need you to remember I said perhaps here, one of the most important films of all time. Batman and Ryan. Batman and Robin. Now I know what you're thinking, but Mr. City Online, doesn't that movie suck? If I Google Batman and Robin, the results page just says bad. You're right, history has not been kind to this movie. It's credited with flooding the streets with crack, blowing up the Challenger space shuttle, stealing my car, kicking my wife in the stomach, punching my son in the nose, throwing my dog out the window, deforestation, burning down cancer wards, putting radiation inside every pillow in the world, pissing in my granddad's urn, then throwing the ashes at me. Ask anyone on the street what they think of 1997's Batman and Robin, and they'll say, that movie is worse than my shoe. Batman and Robin is hated. It joins the ranks of Dragon Ball Evolution as a film so lauded by the fans that the people involved have since issued apologies, then died to make it up to the fans.
I always apologize for Batman.
Batman and Robin is an over-the-top, ridiculous, insano mode comedy film full of gags, puns, and absurdity. From top to bottom, this film is dumb. The Burton films were never really dark, but they were the closest people ever had to a gritty and serious take on the character that they really wanted and had been getting in the comics. Even if Keaton Batman was too stupid to simply not have the mask connect to his shoulders, which prevents him from turning his head without turning his whole body, but they were still big screen, big deal depictions of Batman not being fucking hokey. So you can imagine the reaction people had when the studios decided to make Batman fucking hokey again. Batman and Robin follows Batman and Robin as they navigate the trials and tribulations of working together. Batman used to be a one-man army, but now he's an army of two. And Robin, being the young and spunky kid he is, wants to do things his way and not play second fiddle to da Bat. Meanwhile, Batman could give a fuck. He's Batman. Shut up. Die. Beyond the duo's bickering amongst themselves, they must also deal with the delightfully devilish Mr. Freeze, played by the beloved Arnold Schwarzenegger N-word, and Poison Ivy, played by Uma Thurman, an actress who I would let wear my mouth as shoes if she wanted to. Bane is also here, played by WCW wrestler Robert Swenson, otherwise known by his professional name, The Final Solution. He died 2 months after this movie came out. Not so funny now, is it? It already wasn't funny. Quiet you. Batman and Robin was quite literally made with the intention to sell toys.
In Batman and Robin, there was a real desire at the studio, more toyetic, which means that what you create makes toys that can sell.
We involved the toy company. We let them look and be involved in how the Batmobile was going to look, how Batman's gadgets were going to be, which they wanted. This is key to them. They need a lot of lead time.
And where many would find this to be a negative, I find it pretty goddamn fun. It means the world of this movie is super cartoony and fantastical, opening up the door for so much outrageous shit to happen, as well as very creative set and world design. In the opening sequence alone, Batman slides down a dinosaur's back, him and Robin play hockey with Freeze goons, climb aboard a Mr. Freeze rocket ship, then surf the doors down to the surface as the rocket explodes. Is it hard to take seriously? Well, yeah, of course, that's why I just don't. You know, a lot of people treat this movie like they set out to make a serious film, and just, like, fucked up, and we're like, oh, whoops, we accidentally did that. We thought that's how you did a serious Batman film, my bad. Like, no, they obviously fucking knew what they were doing. It's probably also important for me to say this just early on. My introduction to Batman as something I was interested in was legitimately Forest Fire 101's Lego Batman series when I was like 8 or 9.
Hey Batman, I don't know why you're making me wear your costume, but it's very itchy.
It's Batman. Get him!
I spent all that money on crack.
I forgot. Robin deleted all the files to make room for his gay porn folder. Oh, that's disgusting.
Robin! But anyway, hand over the money, you scum.
Oh, they just wrote us a cashier's check.
Are you retarded?
I don't remember what my immediate reaction to serious Batman media was, but I'm just throwing this out there so you know my relationship to this world has mostly been non-serious nonsense. Just so you understand why I don't hate this so much. Look at Gotham, it's got this giant statue in the middle of it and the whole city is raised above the surface. Why? Because it's cool, it's creative, it's fun. And how the hell am I supposed to hate this over-the-top frizzy-haired stereotypical mad scientist and his gallery of evil maniacs who watch him create Bane in a goofy Frankenstein-esque castle with a giant electric whatever these things are?
Sadly, I'm not good at rejection. I'm afraid you'll have to die.
Yeah, move over, Joker and Riddler. There's a new Literally Me Batman character. Dr. Pamela Isley, the woman being killed here by this nice young man, was a shy and timid botanist who was working for a goofy evil scientist until he had nerd rage on her, and she was reborn as the superpowered eco-terrorist named Poison Ivy. Essentially Ted Kaczynski if he was the hottest woman I've ever fucking seen. What she wants is simple. Kill all humans and let the plants inherit the earth. Quite the turn from, oh, I don't want to help you create super soldiers for war. Crazy how she went from being opposed to a little bit of murder to total genocide. Mr. Freeze, on the other hand, fell into a pool of cold water, and that's how he became Mr. Freeze. That must be why they recast Val Kilmer in this one. There's not enough room for 2 Icemen in one film.
I am dangerous.
Mr. Freeze is such a tragic character. He's forced to live in extreme cold as he tries to find a cure to his wife's illness, and is forced to steal diamonds to fuel his cryogenic suit. Without the warmth of his wife's love, he's taken on the full physical manifestation of the cold loneliness of the human condition. He also makes a lot of ice puns. This is considered out of character by many people. How could he be such a tragic and deep character while still?
Stay cool, bird boy. Allow me to break the ice. Let's kick some ice. I'm afraid that my condition has left me cold to your pleas of mercy.
He's fucking dead.
To that I say this. If you fell into some cold water and became transformed into a snowman, I think you'd do the same thing. If you can't have a sense of humor about how incredibly stupid and poorly conceived your tragedies are, you'll go mad. I guess he went mad too, but... And then, of course, there's Bane, a serial killer injected with super soldier serum and turned into a mentally f***ed-in-the-head Hulk. Far from my favorite live-action interpretation of him, but as far as live-action portrayals of Bane go, he's easily my second favorite. He's in a monkey costume, how could I not love this? It's also always funny when he's wearing a jacket and a hat while driving Ivy around. But then there's Elisa Silverstone as Alfred's niece, Batgirl. I know that's not her name, but I don't remember her name, so fuck it, she's Batgirl Pennyworth, because her character is only worth a penny. The movie's main theme is family and working together, so it makes enough sense that there's a character who is literally family, but she's pretty underutilized. I think they just realized they couldn't have Batman beat the fuck out of a woman, so they needed another woman to do it so audiences didn't get uncomfortable. Maybe she was supposed to play a bigger role initially, but they forgot to write it since they were clueless. Now, while I do feel bad for her for what she went through because of this movie, her acting in it is not great.
I'm on break from
Oxbridge Academy, Alfred's alma mater.
It's pretty clear the scene is supposed to play out where, like, Bruce interrupts her and, like, finishes her sentence, but she looks back at George Clooney before he says anything, and I don't know why they used this take. Why was this, Joel, why did you approve this take? Robin is mostly just horny in this movie, you know, he wants to fuck Poison Ivy because, well, duh. She doesn't even need mind control pheromones if we're being honest, but he also wants Batgirl too. Nobody's safe in this manner, we're all stuck in here with him. On an initial viewing of this film, it can be easy to find the scenes at Wayne Manor rather melancholy, self-serious, and boring, a bit out of place with the rest of the movie, where the sets are colorful and bizarre, but Wayne Manor is serious.
For what is Batman, if not an effort to master the chaos that sweeps our world? An attempt to control death itself.
Alfred is coincidentally dying of the Mr. Freeze's wife syndrome somehow, and there's all these dramatic and heavy moments as the gang realizes that he's dying. Then the next scene will be some shit like,
A laundry service that delivers. Wow.
But after meditating on these scenes, what I learned is this. They are out of place. Wayne Manor should look like Pee-wee's Playhouse, the floor should be black and white checkerboard and have pictures of Captain Crunch on the wall. Is this some sort of commentary on how life is just more exciting as Batman and Robin? Out there on the gothic and art deco streets of Gotham, anything can happen, but in these walls, everything just sucks, and an old man we love is dying, and Alicia Silverstone is just... She's not acting that great. But what does this movie mean, though? Buy toys. But seriously, folks, is it really just an over-budget toy commercial? Yes, but seriously folks, what is it really trying to say? Does this movie mean anything? Well, obviously it's the power of family, but I'm doing Understanding Fast 5 next, so I gotta save all that shit for that video next month. I think this movie is about how we destroy ourselves. Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze plot to bring about a new ice age and annihilate all mammals, minus themselves of course, who will arise from the frost as a new self-proclaimed Adam and Evil, repopulating the earth with all these mutant plant monsters. The movie takes place in a familiar yet bastardized and funhouse mirror version of a world we know, where nobody acts quite right and nothing fully makes sense. A world built from the ground up to sell things, a hyper-reality. It's very fitting that the villain in this world is an eco-terrorist who despises all of this and wants to return the world to nature and uses nature as a weapon against a populace who has pushed it away and fallen out of order from where we came from. When she seductively takes off her monkey costume, to me, the symbolism is clear. She is evolving from a simple ape, a creature who lives in harmony with nature, into a vengeful deity. She takes on the alluring form of man's desire to turn us back into the apes from whence we came and destroy us with our own complex but ultimately fallible minds still weak to the ultimate powers of nature. You may think that she's the one taking off the costume, but actually, she's taking off ours. It's a good thing you just kind of kick her into a thing in. But the other villain, Mr. Freeze, is much more complicated. His love drove him to evil. He became cold and alone and sought to make everyone else feel the way he felt once he believed his wife had been killed by the noble and heroic Batman. He thought that if these are the idols humanity worshipped, then God needed to die and be reborn as themselves. Batman and Robin are themselves torn apart by jealousy, ego, and most of all, fear. Fear, what is this? Batman Begins. They were lone wolves from shattered families who formed their own pack but haven't really learned how to be a family. They were once like Mr. Freeze, isolated by tragedy, cold and alone. You could make the argument that ultimately the movie is about love and fulfillment and searching for it in all the wrong places in a way that is all f***ed up. Bruce Wayne is actively in a committed relationship with some lady who he really doesn't care about at all. This is the scene where she breaks up with him and he's just seemingly pretty happy. The relationships he values are Alfred, his surrogate father, and Robin, his surrogate brother or son or something, surrogate ward. He lashes out at Robin for being reckless and tries to prevent him from doing things that he deems are too dangerous. It's perceived as Bruce having a big ego or not trusting Robin as his equal, but the truth, although it's never stated I think, is that he's scared of losing him. This story is done much better in the Lego Batman movie, but it's still here, damn it, I haven't scratched the bottom of this barrel yet. And as for Robin, like I said earlier, he's extremely horny for most of this movie. He wants Ivy and Batgirl, and even the first line of the movie is, I want a car. Chicks dig the car. Jokes, yes, but they speak to his innate desire to find companionship in his own identity outside of the Bat's shadow. Wanting a car because chicks dig the car is superficial and shallow. It's why Bruce will never give him a car. You will not get a car. Bruce is quick to realize that Poison Ivy is using pheromones to mess with their minds, but it takes quite a lot more convincing to make Robin believe him that this woman is actually the villain and doesn't love him. Is that because he's stupid, or because he just so desperately wants something missing from his own life with this insanely hot, toxic, psychopathic woman with colored hair? We've all been there, Robin. We've all been there. Ivy was created by the evil deeds of another, just like Batman and Robin were, but Freeze and Batgirl were created by tragedy, and each character is choosing a way to react to the world based on their suffering. Batman wants to prevent what happened to him from happening to anyone else, whereas Ivy sees what happened to her as humanity's condemnation and considers herself separate from us because of it. Freeze views what happened to his wife and then himself as unjust suffering, and he's right, it was. But unlike Batman and Robin, there wasn't anyone specific who did this to him, it kinda just happened, and he snapped. But okay, what if it wasn't supposed to be deep? What if I'm just saying shit to fill time? What if I really had nothing to say about this movie and everyone can tell that I'm pulling this all out of my ass because I think it's funny to waste your time and I don't even believe any of what I'm saying is a reasonable read on this bullshit film? What if it was just supposed to be a straight comedy? Well, I fucked that up, this movie is extremely gay. Even if all it wanted to be was funny and silly, why is that such a bad thing? Batman has been funny for, at the risk of being wrong as hell, quite a lot of his history, if not most of it. I guess the reason that Adam West gets a pass is that his live-action goofball Batman is just goofier and more silly-pilled than Clooney's. Maybe this is crazy to say, but I feel like Batman and Robin is a gritty version of Adam West Batman. Like, it's still goofy and over the top, but there's a bit more edge to it than there would have been 30 years ago. Does that make sense? It's a gritty version of 60s Batman. But wait, didn't I say this was perhaps one of the most important superhero films of all time? It is when you consider what it led to. Batman Begins and the Dark Knight trilogy. For 8 years after this movie came out, there were no live-action Batman movies. They killed the franchise. The only successful superhero movies between 1997 and 2005 were the Raimi Spider-Man films and Blade. Oh, and also the X-Men movies, I forgot those existed. Which are good, and even silly. But Batman Begins changed everything more than I think a lot of people realize. Batman Begins was the first comic book movie to take everything very seriously and cinematically. It was not a fantastical world at all, it was brutal, dark, cool, but most of all, it felt realistic. It took the idea of a guy wearing a costume and beating up bad guys deathly seriously, and that's more or less how many superhero movies going forward decided to go. Iron Man opens with Tony Stark being kidnapped by terrorists and he brutally murders them all in a fairly realistic way. MCU films had always been much lighter in tone than any of the Nolan Batman films, but from that point onward, superhero movies took place in our world. We weren't going to get an artistic and striking Gotham City anymore, is just a city, because the data showed that if a movie takes place in live action, general audiences wanted a restricted and realistic take, because this makes them feel stupid. Even if eventually there would be aliens and magic in a Chinese dimension, everything had to be set against a backdrop of plausibility and be grounded in our world. No matter how much Robert Pattinson wants it, we probably aren't getting Condiment King in the Batman 2. But we can dream, damn it. Does this mean I think every superhero movie should be a high-budget toy commercial full of over-the-top puns? No, but maybe a few. I love the Nolan trilogy, the Batman was awesome, and there's plenty of MCU and DCU films that I think are great, but the unforeseen consequences of their successes in Batman and Robin's colossal failure was the loss of silly. I think it's unlikely we will get anything this silly and goofball-pilled again for a long time. Is this really me praising Batman and Robin, or have we really just fallen so far that even the worst movies of the 90s look like high art today because holy shit, they built real sets and they're wearing real costumes and there's like a vision here, like it doesn't really work, but like it's entertaining and refreshing. Besides like Alfred dying, there are very few scenes in this film that I think we would ever get anything close to today, outside of something animated like the Lego Batman movie, which I love, but you get the point. It's creative, bright, and fun, and I wish we still had room for stuff like this. I don't think it's the funniest Batman movie though, it's probably like the 4th or 5th funniest. The honor of funniest goes to The Dark Knight Rises.
If I pull that off, will you die?
It would be extremely painful.
You're a big guy.
For you.
But the real point of this video is that if it weren't for this movie's failure and Batman Begins and The Dark Knight's and Iron Man's successes, maybe Speed Racer would have done better. That's right, this was actually a Speed Racer video all along. Speed Racer the movie video part 2. This is a
Let's get some pussy tonight.
I'm freaky with it.